Something happened on social media last week. A tweet, brief, cryptic, and most people scrolled right past it. Elon Musk posted about supply chain constraints, industrial metals, future production timelines, the usual tech billionaire concerns, nothing that made headlines, nothing that moved markets. But if you understand the math behind electric vehicle production, if you know what materials go into a Tesla, that tweet wasn't casual commentary. It was a distress signal, because Tesla has a silver problem. And it's not a small problem. It's a problem that's about to force the entire EV industry into a bidding war for a metal that's already in shortage. And when that bidding war starts, the price you see on your screen right now will look like ancient history. Let me show you what Elon knows that the spot price isn't telling you. Most people think electric vehicles run on lithium, cobalt, rare earth magnets. They do. But there's another metal in every Tesla nobody talks about. A metal connecting every circuit, every solar integration, every battery contact point. Silver. Not much per vehicle, 20 to 50 grams depending on model. Standard internal combustion cars use 5 to 10 grams for basic electronics. But EVs are different. Computers on wheels, exponentially more complex electrical architecture. More circuits, more contacts, more conductivity requirements. And silver is the best conductor. You can't substitute it without losing efficiency. You can't swap it for copper in high-performance applications. It has to be silver. So Tesla uses 20 to 50 grams per vehicle. Let's be conservative and say 30 grams average. That doesn't sound like much until you do the math on scale. Tesla produced 1.8 million vehicles last year, 30 grams per vehicle. That's 54,000 kilograms of silver, 54 metric tons just for Tesla, just for 1 year. Now add BYD, add NIO, add every EV manufacturer in China, cranking out millions of units. The global EV industry consumed roughly 200 tons of silver last year for vehicle production alone. And that number is accelerating. But here's where the math becomes a crisis, because the silver price just moved, and it moved violently. 2 years ago, silver was trading at $20 per ounce. Tesla's procurement teams locked in long-term supply contracts at that price. They hedged their exposure. They secured their supply chain. Standard corporate practice. Those contracts are expiring. And the new contracts? They're not at $20. They're at $79. That's a 400% increase in input cost for a material that's non-negotiable. Let me show you what that means in real numbers. 30 grams of silver at $20 per ounce equals roughly $20 of silver per vehicle. Annoying, but manageable. Build it into the cost structure. Move on. 30 grams of silver at $79 per ounce equals roughly $80 of silver per vehicle. That's a $60 cost increase per unit. Multiply that by 1.8 million vehicles. That's $108 million in additional annual costs. Just from one metal, just from silver. For Tesla, that's significant but survivable. They can absorb that. They can pass some of it to consumers. But the problem isn't the cost. The problem is the supply. Because when Tesla goes to the market to lock in new contracts for 2026 and 2027 production, they're not just competing with other car companies. They're competing with the solar industry, the electronics industry, the defense contractors, and the investors who are panic buying physical metal. The silver market is tiny. Annual mining production is roughly 830 million ounces. Sounds like a lot until you realize that industrial demand alone consumes 700 million ounces. The float, the actual available supply for new buyers, is razor thin. So when Tesla tries to secure 54 tons for next year, they're entering a market that's already running a structural deficit. And they're not alone. Every EV manufacturer is doing the same calculation. They're all realizing their contracts are expiring. They're all trying to lock in supply before the next guy does. This is the setup for an industrial panic buy. And the tweet? That was Elon signaling that Tesla is about to enter the market. Hard. Now let's talk about what happens when industrial buyers panic. This isn't like retail investors chasing charts. Industrial buyers don't care about technical levels. They don't wait for pullbacks. They have production schedules, factories that need to run. If they don't secure silver, assembly lines stop. So they bid aggressively. They offer premiums, lock in multi-year contracts at whatever price clears, because the alternative, shutting down production, costs exponentially more than overpaying for silver. This is called inelastic demand. The price can double and they still buy, because they have no choice. And here's the part that terrifies the spot market. When industrial buyers move into panic mode, they don't just buy spot silver, they buy forward contracts. They lock in supply 1, 2, 3 years out. This removes future supply from the market before it even exists. We're already seeing signals of this in the futures curve. The forward months are trading at a premium to spot. That's called backwardation. It means the market is pricing in shortage. It means buyers are willing to pay more for silver today than for silver next year because they don't trust that next year's silver will be available. Tesla sees this, BYD sees this, Every procurement officer in the EV industry is looking at that futures curve and realizing they're about to be priced out or locked out entirely. So they're moving now, and their buying is self-reinforcing. The more Tesla buys, the higher the price goes. The higher the price goes, the more urgent the next buyer becomes. It's a feedback loop. But it gets worse, because Tesla isn't just competing with other EV manufacturers. They're competing with the solar industry. And the solar industry's silver problem is even bigger. A single solar panel uses roughly 20 grams of silver. Sounds manageable. Until you look at deployment numbers. The global solar industry installed over 400 gigawatts last year. That's roughly 200 million panels. 20 grams per panel. 4,000 metric tons of silver, 4,000 tons. Compare that to Tesla's 54 tons. The solar industry consumes 70 times more silver. And solar deployment is accelerating. Clean energy mandates. Net zero targets. Every government subsidizing solar. Silver demand from solar is structural, not discretionary, not going away, growing faster than mining supply. So Tesla isn't just bidding against BYD for silver, they're bidding against the entire solar industry. And the solar industry is backed by government subsidies. They're price insensitive. They'll pay whatever it takes because the installations are mandated. This is the invisible competitor, and it's massive. Now let's talk about the supply side. Because if demand is exploding, surely supply will respond, right? Surely the mining companies will ramp up production to meet the need? Wrong. Silver mining doesn't work like that. Most silver isn't from primary silver mines. It's a byproduct. Roughly 70% of production comes from mines digging for copper, lead, or zinc. Silver is just a bonus. This means silver supply is inelastic. Even if silver hits $100, mining companies can't just dig more. They're digging for copper. Silver comes along for the ride. If copper demand is flat, silver supply is flat, regardless of price. Primary silver mines are already at capacity. Opening a new mine takes 10 years. Permitting, financing, construction. By the time new mines come online, the current crisis will have played out. So supply is fixed, demand exploding. Industrial buyers waking to this reality all at once. This is the panic Elon's tweet revealed. Tesla did the math, looked at forward contracts, looked at spot price, looked at futures curve, realized they're about to be in a bidding war they can't afford to lose. Because if Tesla can't secure silver, they can't build cars. It's that simple. You can have all the lithium in the world, all the battery capacity, all the manufacturing infrastructure. But if you don't have the silver to wire the electrical systems, the car doesn't work. Silver is the choke point, and the choke point is tightening. Now let's look at the timeline, because this isn't a distant problem. This is happening right now. Tesla's current supply contracts probably run through Q2 or Q3 of this year. After that, they need to renew. And when they go to the market to negotiate new contracts, they're going to discover that the price has quadrupled and the available supply has vanished. The other EV manufacturers are on similar timelines. BYD's contracts, Volkswagen's contracts, Ford's contracts. They're all expiring within the next 6 to 12 months. This means we're looking at a 6-month window where the entire global EV industry tries to secure silver supply simultaneously. That's not a market, that's a stampede. And the solar industry is running on the same timeline. The installations planned for 2026 need silver secured now. The procurement cycle for industrial-scale solar projects runs 12 to 18 months ahead of installation. So everyone is moving at once. Tesla, BYD, the solar giants, the defense contractors who need silver for electronics, the smartphone manufacturers, the 5G infrastructure build-out, all of them. Same metal, same shortage, same timeline. This is the mathematical certainty of a price explosion. When demand exceeds supply by 50% and the timeline is 6 months, the price doesn't rise incrementally. It gaps. It jumps 20, 30, 50% in a matter of weeks. We're watching the setup in real time. The spot price is still pretending this is a normal market. But the industrial buyers are pricing in the squeeze. That's why the premiums are rising. That's why the futures curve is inverted. And Elon's tweet? That was the signal that the biggest buyer in the room just entered the game. Now here's what makes this particularly dangerous for the paper market. The COMEX trades silver futures, paper contracts, promises of future delivery, and most of those contracts settle in cash. The buyers don't want the metal, they just want price exposure. But what happens when industrial buyers start demanding physical delivery? What happens when Tesla says we need the actual metal, not a cash settlement? The COMEX has to source it. They have to go to the vaults, they have to arrange logistics. And if the vaults are running low because everyone else is demanding delivery too, the COMEX can't fulfill. At that point, they declare force majeure. They settle in cash whether you want cash or not. And the moment they do that, the paper price becomes irrelevant because the industrial buyers aren't trading for profit. They're securing supply for production. Cash doesn't build cars, so they'll bypass the COMEX entirely. They'll go directly to refineries. They'll go directly to mining companies. They'll lock in supply at whatever premium is required. And that premium is where the real price is, not the spot price on your screen. The spot price is the fantasy. The premium is the reality. Right now, the premium on physical silver is 4 to 6% over spot in most markets. That's normal friction. But when the industrial panic hits, when Tesla and BYD and the solar giants are all bidding for the same supply, that premium explodes to 20, 30, 40%. At that point, you have two silver markets, the paper market trading at spot, and the physical market trading at massive premiums. The arbitrage that's supposed to keep them linked breaks, because you can't arbitrage something that doesn't exist. This is the end game. The paper market pretends silver is available. The physical market reveals it's not. And the industrial buyers are forced to pay whatever the physical market demands. Tesla knows this is coming. That's why the tweet. That's why the urgency. They're trying to secure supply before the premium blows out. But they're not going to succeed. Because everyone is trying to do the same thing. And there isn't enough silver to go around. So where does the price go? What's the number? If you just look at the supply-demand deficit and assume the price needs to ration demand, you're looking at silver north of $100, maybe $120, maybe $150. Wherever the price needs to be to make solar installations, pause. To make EV manufacturers redesign their systems. To destroy enough demand to balance the market. But here's the trap. You can't redesign a Tesla to use less silver without losing performance. You can't make solar panels without silver paste. The demand is structural. It's not price elastic. Which means the price might have to go much higher than anyone expects. Because the only way to balance this market is to wait for new mine supply. And new mine supply is 10 years away. We're looking at a decade of shortage, a decade of industrial panic buying, a decade of premiums and supply squeezes. And Tesla just signaled they're preparing for it. The tweet wasn't about the present, it was about the future. It was Elon telling his procurement team to lock in everything they can, now, before it's too late. But there's another layer to this that makes the situation even more explosive. The other EV manufacturers are watching Tesla. They're watching Elon's moves. They're decoding the same signals. And they're realizing that if Tesla is panicking, they should be panicking too. This creates a game theory problem. If you're BYD and you know Tesla is about to buy aggressively, do you wait? Do you hold back and hope the price comes down? No, you front run them. You buy first. You lock in supply before Tesla drives the price even higher. But Tesla knows BYD is thinking this way. So Tesla buys earlier, harder. They overbuy their needs just to keep metal away from competitors. This is the prisoner's dilemma playing out in the silver market. Cooperation would be rational. Wait, spread out the buying, keep prices manageable. But cooperation is impossible because the first company to defect, the first one to buy aggressively, gains a competitive advantage. They secure supply while their competitors scramble. The spot price says $79. But the industrial buyers are pricing in 100, 120, 150. They're looking at the decade ahead and realizing silver is the constraint, the bottleneck, the choke point that determines whether the EV revolution happens or stalls. And choke points don't resolve with spot prices. They resolve with whoever secures supply first. And whoever's willing to pay the most. Tesla is moving, BYD is moving. The solar industry is moving. The question isn't whether the price explodes. The question is whether you're positioned before the industrial buyers lock up all the available supply. Because once they do, the price won't matter. The metal will just be gone.